conversations. We're going to get started with the masterclass shortly, with the knowledge sharing session. But before we go into that, I just want to get to meet a few of us, have conversations, just get to know you better, as I said. Okay, so how do I decide? You know what? Good afternoon, everyone. So those that don't answer me, hi, madam, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you answer when I said good afternoon. I'm so sorry. So it's very simple. Hey, Jesus, don't worry. I will ask the person that is laughing behind you because she laughed at you. This, hi. You will answer, hi. So just tell us your name, what you do. We just want to get to know you. Ma? You don't want to tell us your name? Does anybody here want to tell us their name? Sir, save us. Please put your hands together for him. Fantastic. So just tell us your name, tell us what you do.
My name is John Odo. I'm a project manager and also a developer.
A developer?
Yes, please.
I just want to say I love your voice. I feel like if you're on site and you shouted at me, I would do my job.
Thank you.
Ma, you didn't clap. That's quite. Don't worry, just hold the microphone. Thank you so much. So just tell us your name, tell us what you do, and what you're looking forward to learning today.
My name is Faith Mokwe. I'm a marketer, digital marketer.
Okay.
For Design Catalog, an architectural company.
Nice.
And I'm here to learn how to identify a star architect.
A star architect, fantastic. Please put your hands together for her. Have you ever, is this like the first architectural firm you've worked with before? This is the first one. Interesting. All right, sir. You look very interesting. I just like the way you're adjusting your shirt. Yes. All right. So just tell us your name, tell us what you do. You look like an architect. There's something about you.
Yes, I'm an architect.
You can tell them. All right. So tell us what you do and what you're looking forward to learning today.
Okay, so my name is Olusegun Ibitoye.
Okay.
I'm an architect, as I said.
Yes.
I own Design Catalog.
Design Catalog. Oh,
That's
nice.
the architectural firm that she talked
fantastic.
about.
Okay.
So I'm just here to hear a veteran architect talk
Okay.
about how to identify a star architect.
A star architect. So how to identify
Basically.
you essentially. Ooh, my man. All right, please put your hands together for him. Ha. All right. I know we're just joining. I'm going to share the guidelines that I shared earlier. I'll share them again just so we have a clear understanding of how we like to celebrate ourselves. Okay? I'm not going to climb the stage. What I said earlier was whenever we say put your hands together for someone or we welcome someone up on stage, please, with as much gusto, with as much excitement as possible, I need to feel the energy because we're creative people, we're architects, we're building the future of tomorrow, quite literally in some cases. So let's celebrate the people that come up here, or people that answer questions, all right? And I've been using that as a setup. If I see you not clapping, I will come for you next. So if you want to avoid it, just clap, all right? Fantastic, thank you. Please put your hands together for me. Somebody did not clap. It's you, man. You were clapping down. Just hold the microphone. Next time you clap up. So tell us your name, tell us what you do, and what you're looking forward to learning in this session.
My name is Mary Jane Adama. I'm a student architect in Comland University.
Nice.
And I'm just looking forward to learning from people that are currently practicing and doing what I aspire to do.
Nice. So deep and beautiful. Thank you. Put your hands together for her, please. Yes. I just like the confidence. That was why I gave you the mic. You just look architectural in nature. All right, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Architect Yusuf. I'm an investment manager with Zillers Group, and I also do investment on my own.
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear a word. I heard you are an architect, Yusuf. Then I heard that you're an investment manager.
Yeah, with Zillers Group. Zillers Group is a real estate company.
Oh, okay. What does an investment manager do, though? Would you mind sharing a bit?
Okay, so basically, what we do is we guide our people to invest rightly in real estate, and also when you are guiding them to choose the best design, because most developers that are outside now, I'm sorry to say, they are not doing the best thing. So we need architects more in that space to guide people when they are getting homes.
Yes. Please put your hands together for him one more time. I think my favorite thing about what you just said now is there are multiple career pathways for architects. It's not, you don't have to be the one building designing. Sometimes you can be a researcher, as our earlier guest had said. You can also be an investment manager. Fantastic. All right. We have distinguished mummies here. How are you doing, ma'am? Good afternoon. All right, ma'am. So just tell us a bit about yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Lawa Basirat, an information officer with the Lagos State Government.
Oh.
Just came to explore.
Please put your hands together for her. Clap very well. Oh. All right. Thank you so much. All right, folks. We're going to get started very, very shortly. In fact, we'll get started in about 2 minutes. So I'll be back very shortly to welcome our next speaker up on stage. If I have not asked you any questions, don't worry. I'm still coming back to you. So I'll see you shortly. Thank you very much.
Organization that was happening. Architecture had a role to play in this. And even as our society developed, we needed more specialized buildings, schools, hospitals, cinemas, theaters, and all these kind of things that kind of showed that we were developing as a nation. A lot of the materials we use are imported. Now we have to come up with locally sourced materials that can be used at an industrial scale, such that we will be less dependent on importation. So architecture definitely has a role to play in our discourse and our national discourse as we go into the future. But one very important thing, even though we're part of a global village, architecture must help us to always remember who we are and give us that identity as Nigerians.
My name is Adeyemo Shokumbi. I'm a co-creative director at Patrick Waheed Design Consultancy. I'm an architect working in Nigeria, and we are now at a crossroad, in my opinion, that our architecture needs to start reflecting the environment that it's in, the context, the heritage, the history, all the things that would give Nigerian architecture the credibility that it deserves. The journey so far is that we're now at a crossroads where I believe that it is important to start imbibing some of the things that I mentioned earlier. Architecture is now at a crossroads. Architecture is at a place where every architect has a responsibility to make a difference. A lot has changed since I moved back to Nigeria. I've seen the direction that we're going in, and I'm quite happy, but as we all know, there's still a long way to go. And Ecobank, I think, have taken it upon themselves to see how they can play their part in helping architects or people in the built industry, built environment rather, to be on this path where Nigeria can begin to sort of like showcase our heritage, our traditions, our culture, the context in the architecture that we're doing here.
Building Nigeria together.
Building Nigeria together.
Building Nigeria together.
Well, my name is Ade Laoye. I'm the founding partner of ECAD Architects. We've just completed one of our, I'd say, memorable projects, the National Theatre refurbishment and renovation. It's been quite good because it shows you what Nigerians can do. You know, most of our buildings that are dilapidated are normally demolished or not properly restored, but it shows you that a Nigerian team has been able to restore a national icon. So it shows you the importance of architecture. And I think architecture sometimes, you don't understand that architecture is beyond the buildings. Architecture is about the spaces around buildings as well, just not the building. And we call that urban architecture. And it affects our daily life. We're not aware of that. With bad planning, bad architectural planning, you'll have problems in your society. Pharaohs had their architects. Caesar had an architect. That's why everybody says, see Rome and die, see Paris and die. Even New York, even London. Architecture is vital to any city. Yeah, and as you know, architecture is about designing, and architecture is also about building. Without the architectural design, there's no building. You know, which one comes first, the chicken or the egg? So once you design, and you design well, and you design for you design for what they call affordable housing, you design for villas, you design for cities, you design for villages. And once you've designed that, that now becomes the build. The build is linked to the design. Two of them work together. And it's important that architects, contractors, developers, specifiers, and suppliers all work together in harmony to create a wonderful city that will work for everybody.
Hi everyone, my name is Yinka Ogundaro, one of the partners in Adene Ecobank Consultants. We're a firm of architects and engineers. When you look at the Nigerian discourse in terms of what architecture has done and contributed to Nigeria, you will find out in the very beginning that architecture has helped us to even establish our identities. Urbanization happened, and then a lot of people moved into the cities, and you will find that we started growing our cities. Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt. We needed bigger buildings to take care of the massive urbanization that was happening. Architecture had a role to play in this. And
and the United States Congress, and affiliated to the Edmond A. Rothschild Family Philanthropy Platform. Since 2011, she has hosted her own syndicated radio program and podcast on leadership called Voice of Change. Olajumoke has been honored with numerous awards for her architecture and philanthropy. She was named Forbes Woman Africa Entrepreneur of the Year 2020 and the New African Businesswoman of the Year in 2015, among several other awards for her architecture and interior design. Besides being recognized as Africa's most inspiring businesswoman by Les Bâtisseurs d'économie de l'Africaine, Olajumoke has been perennially recognized as one of the 50 most powerful women in Africa on several power lists to date. Most recently, she was named on the Forbes 50 over 50 list for Europe, Middle East, and Africa for 2024. The monograph of her work, Neo Heritage, is the first by a black architect to be published by the world's leading art, architecture, and design publishers, Rizzoli. She is the only African featured in Agatha Toromanop's Raising the Roof, a landmark publication on the world's greatest female architects in history, and 100 Architects by the Royal Institute of British Architects and the Pratt Institute. In 2019, she was appointed as a visiting professor at the Technische Universität München, TUM, Germany's leading architectural program, where she was honored as a laureate and a guest scientist, chartered architect, academic laureate.
Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Principal at AD Consulting, Olajumoke Adenowo. A round of applause, please. Keep clapping as she gets up on stage. Thank you so very much, ma'am. Looking stunning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. What went wrong with the video? I hope the slides will be okay, media team, because that video, something went wrong with it. Thank you very much for the warm and polite architect. Okay, first I want to acknowledge my classmate in Ife, in Great Ife, B. Olagbami, who very wisely pivoted into risk management in banking. Can you clap for B? Because he's here to support me. Or are you going to be one of those polite crowds? Because we can sit down. I have come, I've done what I'm supposed to do. Are you one of those cool, chill, woke crowds that don't You don't show any enthusiasm. An MC is wearing a double-breasted suit looking like an Italian mafioso. You don't have that kind of suit. Beef is doing you, you can't clap. Clap for the MC, come on. If you don't clap for you, clap for his dreads. You clap for his tees. All of us left to Nigeria. I mean, beef and bad belly is doing also. You celebrate what you want to look like. Well done, MC. Thank you. So we're going to be delving into this. Are you in uni? Where are you? What do you do? You're a structural engineer. Can you give her a hand? You're a structural engineer. Respect. For how long? 2 years. It's not easy. I did maths. We did maths. We survived it. Maths 104. I have not done anything with pendulum motion from the day I learned it till today. They just do it to torture architects. How many people are architects? I salute you, that you survived, that you got out of the university, either on a stretcher or on a gunny, but not a coffin. Can you clap for the architects in the room? So to be a star architect is very, very, very different from just graduating or any such thing. So media, I hope the media is not going to. I'm clicking it. Towards what direction you want to click? So click right, isn't it? Exactly what I told my EA. Can we have the first? Good. How to identify a star architect. First, who is a star architect? There's a bit of a confusion in Nigeria right now, and you're not going to be confused after today, about who an architect is. Most people think building engineers are architects. Most people think architects are those who are responsible for buildings standing up. So I get a lot of interviews about building collapses and stuff like that. That is ignorance. Architects do not have anything to do with building collapses. It's in the province of the structural engineer and the contractor, just in case that's a question you want answered. Then therefore, who really is a star architect? A star architect, and how you go about commissioning one. These are the things we're going to look at today, right? So that when you're done, you know, how do I get a star architect to work on my project? Because they do have brand value. The ones who get people for your organization to build, okay, none. So I'll move fast. The first way is not to do an RFQ or RFI. I'm talking to Tukumbo here, but Tukumbo knows that already. They do it the right way where he was. An RFQ is a request for quotation and everything, where people begin to fill in man-hour sheets. When you do that, you get the cheapest architect. And you know what happens when you pay peanuts? You get what? What? Monkeys. You get monkeys when you pay peanuts. So you get the cheapest architect from doing an RFQ. I've politely turned down some RFQs from Ecobank, you know, for precisely that reason. And it's not RFIs that you do either. You don't say requests for information and then basically try and get into the head of all the architects. You know why I don't answer to that kind of thing? Because what is seen cannot be unseen. So when you ask me to do a plan of this and that, and it's the entire design you're asking me to do, and really you're saying you want a request for information, I know how it works in this country. When you're done, somebody's going to say, hey, scum, you see where she put this door, put your own there, this one there, and then after that, we really don't need this anymore, we would rather go with this. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So that's not the way to go about getting a star architect. Those are the wrong questions. Now, what is the right question? What do we ask? Who is a star architect? I've put some star architects up and I'll tell you. Number one, a star architect is known by the fact that their work is seminal. Their work teaches something. It contributes something to the field. It moves the field forward. Do you understand what I'm saying? When we say seminal contributions, we're not talking about quantum of works. We're not saying they did 400 buildings, 100 or 200. For example, Zaha Hadid with 4 works in 2002 at the age of, wait for it, 53. Because architects come into their own rather late in life. Do you understand? So architecture is not for that field. You want to get rich very quickly. Be a contractor. That's what you do. Build buildings. So at 53, she had 4 works. She got the Pritzker Prize on the basis of 4 works. Do you get that? It's not quantum of work. And it's not also how many stories have you designed? That's a very Nigerian question. What do stories have to do with it? The height of a building and how you resolve the height of a building in design is a programmatic issue. It's about vertical and horizontal circulation. How many architects are here? Vertical circulation. Lifts, how you get into the lifts, horizontal, how you move around, health, safety, and environment issues. After that, and where the services are stacked, after that, the problem becomes the problem of the structural engineer, isn't it? Dead load, live load, wind load. But yet, you get into a meeting where people went to school and they're asking you, have you done about 5 floors? And you're like, what is this? Because Francis Carey, 2022, won the Pritzker Prize on the basis he had never designed anything above 2 stories. And how would he anyway? He designs in mud and sticks. How do you carry over 2 stories in mud and sticks? Are you learning anything yet? Questions you cannot ask. Because if you ask, your grandchildren will diss you. You can't do that. So, that's seminal contributions, their contributions. Therefore, sometimes architects show up, they're star architects, and all they have is a monograph of their works. All they have is a lot of polemical intent. If you do not know the word polemics in architecture, you are not talking yet. You have to know like didactic, dialectic, polemics. You have to speak in such a way that nobody understands what you are saying. It's part of it. But I'm not like that. You know? So it's about polemical intent. It's about your debate, where you are taking. You have to keep pushing the envelope and changing the paradigms of society. Do you understand? An architect is not just a builder of buildings. It should be a builder of society. Therefore, how many people know Hitler? I've met a university graduates. They didn't go to our university. University is not too far from here where they went to. They were my EE. I said, do you know the Holocaust? She said she didn't know. And she came out with a BA, 4 years. So Hitler had an architect called Albert Speer. And Albert Speer's work was to create a vision of a new Berlin. You understand? Because architecture is about vision casting. Was it ever built? No. Was it enough to get them to go to war and destroy millions of lives? It definitely was. Just the idea of a new city. That's what an architect is. Someone who can make you begin to spend money towards a desirable and a preferable future. One who shapes the face of society. That's what we're saying about a star architect. Not one who just designs skyscrapers that function. That's engineering. So, an architect, also star architect, must be someone who brings ideology to the table. Le Corbusier is the one everybody knows, including anybody knows. Caterers know Le Corbusier, restaurateurs know Le Corbusier, hotel owners know Le Corbusier, people sell lace, everybody knows Le Corbusier. Le Corbusier had a principle we're going to look into, or principles of a new modern architecture. But you see, it's not just about one conceiving ideology, it's also about articulating it. Some people can conceive, some can't articulate. And it's also about adhering to an ideology. The ideology does not have to be yours. But I need to understand, what do you believe? And if it is contrived, I will know. If you just finish building the building and say, explain what you did, I say, well, I'm thinking of the principles of this style right now. And on this side was modern architecture. They put some art deco to jam it. Everybody will know straight away. You don't even know. You know what I'm saying? Well, sorry, those who know will know. You don't know. So Le Corbusier was actually like the father of modern architecture because he articulated what was going on in modern architecture, though modern architecture had been around since the 1800s. Modern architecture does not mean new or contemporary architecture. It's actually a movement. And he had adherents like Mies van der Rohe, Walter Gropius, Frank Lloyd Wright, and Richard Mayer, which brings me to this. And a star architect must be able to influence society beyond architecture. Do you get it? So there's some stars who are architecture stars. You don't know about them beyond architecture, but that doesn't make them a star architect. It makes them good architects. A star architect influences society. They know them beyond architecture. Beyond architecture. And which brings me to, you see, as a star architect, what you do in your private life, it's personal but not private. Richard Mayer won the Pritzker Prize in 1984, and in 2018 he was accused by 5 women of sexual harassment. And that's it with his star architect status. So I'm saying it to the young people who want to be star architects. Whatever you do in your private life is personal, but it's not private, it's public. So I'm just going to run you through, because I see there are not too many architects here, just to show you what an ideology looks like. Le Corbusier has 5 principles of a new architecture. Pilotis, which means columns, because before them, buildings were on load-bearing walls, right? I'm happy, the architects are happy, right? Finally, somebody is saying it in a way that, in fact, it's sounding, you know what I'm saying? But, good. Pilotes free facade, what it means is that once you have columns, that you can free your walls to move in any direction because they're no longer carrying load. Everybody understands what I'm saying. The horizontal windows, that will happen immediately. You free the walls. Roof gardens, the roof now no longer have to be heaped roofs, and a free plan. Free plan because the walls are no longer load bearing. Modern architecture evolved very simply because of modern technology. Now there was reinforced concrete. So he suddenly saw that buildings could actually be machines for living in, couldn't they? He was so fascinated by the idea of efficient buildings and all that, came up with this. Now where I'm going with this is this. A star architect's work does not have to be formalistically uniform. It doesn't mean one must look like the other, that must look like the other. These two buildings are by Le Corbusier, and a layman will be, even architects will feel like, why is the style changing? Do you get? This is Ronchon, 1955, and this is Unité d'Application in Marseille in 1952. Very different, following exactly the same principles. Principles are principles. Canines follow a principle. A dog is a canine, a chihuahua is a canine, a wolf is a canine. Are you getting me? A South African bubble is a canine. Look at the difference between a chihuahua and a South African bubble. And they all have the same principle. So a star architect does not have to, you don't have to do what so many people have done with my buildings. They go there and say, look at that building. You like it? Okay. I like it. I want you to copy it. So the roof, you do it like she has done it. And this one, it's not about that. Then you say, okay, I would have asked you to do it, but you saw the building I saw you do had a heaped roof. And I don't want a heaped roof. I have a building in VGC called A29, and then another did, and this very bright mathematician and his wife came to me very early in the day, like 15, 16 years ago, and said, we love what you did with that building. We don't want, of course, that outlook and everything. We want your crisp, modern architecture outlook. And we know that if you could crack that programmatic context, you can do this. The two buildings don't look alike. One is like a white circle cylinder made of platonic voids. The other one is like a faux Tuscan facade. Do you get? But they know that if you have an analytical mind, if you can crack this, you can crack that. They don't have to look alike, is what I'm saying. They don't have to be formalistically alike. So, I believe that the time has come for Africa to evolve its own solutions. The whole idea of an Ecobank design and build expo should be moving towards the very ethos of Ecobank. As a Pan-African bank, it's one of the very true Pan-African banks. Ecobank did not stumble upon being a Pan-African bank. It is in its intent from the beginning. Am I right? Others are expanding into Africa. Ecobank was conceived to build Africa. Therefore, I'm in the right place wearing Ecobank colors by mistake. Just because I believe also, the last time I was here, the director was here with me. It was as, I'm a global director of Flutterwave. Do you use Flutterwave? You need to use Flutterwave. There's no other payfac. Don't waste your money. Go to Flutterwave. Do it quickly. They're not paying me for the plug I just gave them, but I'm a global board member. I have to do my work. Can you clap for Flutterwave? Catch the photo, send it to GB. I've done my work for the month. Okay, so I was here as part of the global board of Flutterwave. Flutterwave does work with Ecobank, and we're talking about trans-African solutions. Africa must evolve its own solutions, right? We can no longer become the dumping ground for the solutions that were evolved thousands of miles away. If you do not walk in my shoes for a minute, you can't know how it pinches. You can't solve my problem if you don't know what's wrong with me. Do you get what I'm saying? I was in MIT speaking one time, and they were talking about a folding car. Why? To combat climate change. And I said, really? A folding car? You get it? I said, Emeka will go home at Christmas and will carry a folding car. His mother will cry. You can't get it. You have to understand the zeitgeist, the aspiration. I said, until, and I meant it, James Bond drives a Tesla or that folding car, you are wasting your time. The next James Bond movie like this, it was a gas guzzler. Did you see it? Okay. And we should drive folding cars. Anyway, so Africa must evolve its own solutions, and there was a time when it did. Do you know that? Do you know that the ancient Egyptians were black? They were the people of Kemet, and they were black. And Greeks like Thales and Pythagoras will come to ancient Egypt. To the way you go to Cambridge now to learn from them. Ancient Egypt led in mathematics, in medicine, in astronomy, when Mesopotamia was still in the realms of astrology, I'm saying astronomy, they discovered that the star Sirius rises over the sun every 1,460 years. Those were your ancestors. So you are in no way inferior if you're an African here. And you don't need to look outside for solutions. You need to look inwards. Am I talking to somebody? And I'm still speaking about architecture. That was ancient Egypt. Of course, they led in engineering. And in architecture, Imhotep was a polymath and an architect. In fact, he was so good that the Greeks made him a god. They deified him. And then again, Europe slipped into decadence. And in 711, the Moors came to the rescue again when they invaded Spain. And they brought again another wave of enlightenment. Almoravids who are black. How many people did history? You did history. Well, you can't do history and maths. They don't jam. You know. Almoravids who are black, the Berbers and co, they brought engineering, again architecture, the horseshoe arch and all that. So I say to people when I speak globally, I say trying to solve the problems of the world, especially things like climate change, is like trying to fight box with one arm behind your back if Africa does not join in. That's 1/6 of the world population. One word, if they don't hear from you, if they don't hear from your continent, we can't solve the problems that plague the world. So I came up with these 7 principles that I've practiced for 35 years. I said, what is my architecture based on? What do I do all the time? There's 7 principles. One is light. I've learned from heritage ideation, what the ancestors did. Because it worked, sir. We solved our problems. The Ashoke cap you are wearing right now is based on fractals. The only people who have these fractals are Africans. Who knows about fractals? Fractals do not occur anywhere outside Africa. That's your cap to fractals. Fractals there. This is fractals. That's why I'm wearing it. Do you understand? When a German philosopher discovered fractals in the 1800s and he tried to understand it, he went mad. But that's what Africans have been practicing. Our urban planning based on fractals, weaving fractals. How many people have DD under their wig? You know and I know. Fractals. Fractals. Do you understand? So I see that we've been solving our own problems. So what can we learn? I think a whole generation of African youth will rediscover their confidence in themselves if they understand that their ancestors have solved problems before. You don't come from an inferior continent. You don't have an inferior brain. They had solved their problems before intervention. You can solve your own problems again. Do you get? I know you need an enabling environment, but the other all comes with it. You can solve your problems again. So what did they do? They depended on light in their buildings. The architecture of African heritage cities was rooted in the harmony of nature cycles. When it was daylight, they could see in the house. So all these dark buildings that unless they put on the light, we cannot see, we do not do in AD consulting. Because number one, the building must be energy efficient. You must be able to light it passively. Why? We are doing our best to make sure we don't contribute to the carbon footprint. Am I making sense? Actually, what are we even saying? There's no light. There's no light. Abby Queen, there's no light. So if anything happens, you open your windows. My generator has a generator that has a generator for the backup. So is it not common sense for an African to design a building that all you do is open your window, light will come in, air will come in, right? But we have hermetically sealed skyscrapers all along this island, and wherever you go, you can't open the windows. What's the hope? Don't you know we're borrowing that energy from your children's children? The energy by which we are powering people's egos? Do you still, I can see too, because I'm not sure I'm being paid for this. Should I tell you the truth? Or I should tell you what's nice? You have to vote. What's nice? You don't look like you want the truth. Some people in red, Bone Street are doing like, you know what? All right, so this is one of my buildings, Guiding Light Assembly. I designed this when I was 25, or thereabouts, 24, 25. And it's lit naturally. It's a 2,250-seater auditorium in Parkview in Ikoyi. This is, well, one of my buildings in Reeve Road, a villa in Reeve Road. You can see how the light is enters the building, suffuses. What our ancestors would usually do is put a courtyard there, right, to bring in light. However, what I looked at the courtyard and studied it. I told you principles are not formed, right? What was the principle of the courtyard? They always, I noticed, the ancestors always aggregated. Another way to say it, they gathered or assembled in the light. Tales by moonlight were always in what? Light around a courtyard, you get it. And when the Oba of Oyo, Alaafin of Oyo wanted to hold court, it would be in what? A courtyard. The Oba of Owo, it would be in what? A courtyard. Deji of Aku. They suffer from that, not understanding that you cannot fly somebody into the country for even a year to study the climate of the country. How many people did geography? You know, you didn't cram it, you did it. Geography, in which I humbly got an A1 in those days, says to me, weather is very different from climate. Climate is the weather over how many years? 30 years. So for me to understand what is going to happen in Lagos in February, if I describe the wind, the heat, and the rain, you can't get it by looking at meteorological reports that don't exist. I must be able to tell you that, that roof, if it's flat, then before February, we must go and clear all the gutter out because there will be problems. Somebody you fly in from London doesn't know that. If he thinks it looks good, he will put it there and fly back to London. Climate responsiveness is primary. Yorubas have a saying, should I give it to you? As one can think, that's the one who doesn't know how to take refuge from the climate and the weather. So, I will quickly, there are too many principles. I'm trying to go through a book that's a monograph. I can't do that. So I'll just take one of them. I would use things like plant cover trellises to create a screen. Because here in Africa, we are trying to protect, in the tropics, we're near the equator. Do you remember equator? We're trying to protect ourselves from the sun. So when we have glass-covered facades, I have no problem with glass. We must know how to shade the glass, right? We must know how to protect our walls from thermal load. So it's not that glass looks fine. Put glass for me, top to bottom. Your building becomes an oven because the glass actually magnifies the sun's rays. You bake inside your building. Therefore, you get heavy air conditioning to again begin to chill the building that you yourself invited the heat into. Do you get it? And you can now not open the windows because we have one advantage that they don't have in the places where you see those glass buildings. Our wind actually moves, and there is no time when it is too cold to open the window. So people are traveling to come to a place like that's why Dirty December rocks like that. Everybody who has Japa is now suffering from seasonal affective disorder syndrome. In one word, they're depressed. And they're coming back to Lagos because they need the heat and the sun. And you have the heat and the sun, and your windows cannot be opened. And you are baking in the heat. Meanwhile, there is no light. So I use trellises, screens, I use subtractive elements which you may not be able to see, which means indentations within the building so that overhanging eaves, you understand? Do you see how our ancestors would build overhanging eaves so that the eaves can shade the building? Now, who has seen Benin architecture? You see the fluting? I saw somebody try to, yeah, the walls are fluted as if they have corrugations, like, okay, as if it's zinc. You get it? As if it's zinc sheets. Okay. The real reason is so that half of the wall will be shaded, while another half will face the sun. It wasn't decorative. I saw somebody try to do something like that recently and say, you have to understand the principle. So in this guiding light assembly, I use stack ventilation, which is create a courtyard in the middle, fans right there at the roof. The warm air, the cold air is taken in, it gets hotter. We all know cold air rises, doesn't it? Physics, it goes out. And as big as the space is, it is cooled naturally, 2,250 people. Are you learning anything? Oh, thank you. Ecobank clap for me, of course. Thank you, Ecobank. I do have an Ecobank story, which is why I came when you invited me. It's a good story. Don't cover your eyes. It's a good story. About 20-something years ago, I did my first development that was a development that was mine. And I only did it to prove that you do not have to steal and be corrupt to own a house in Nigeria, in Lekki. That was it. I'm like that. I'm a social somebody thinking like that. And it took Funke Smith and Gladys Dokubo of your private bank, and I was a private banking client, to believe in what I was doing. And the place is in Lekki now called Grace Muse. It functions. It's on Boson Adekoya Street. It functions. It's still like, somebody got there recently and said, he said, who designed this? That who? Because there's so much space. He said, architect, I didn't know what. He said, hey, I knew, he called me from there. It's not fantastic, but honestly, it's a very livable place. So we were talking about climate responsive buildings, and then next slide was, okay, contextual veracity, are we sure? Okay. This is very important to me. You know, when you get to, how many people have watched Black Panther? Own it. You watch it, it's not a bad movie. Black Panther 1, good. Do you realize the opening scene as they're flying over Wakanda? Remember what they said, I never tire of this sight. What do you think they're trying to say? That when you're in a particular locale, you should know you're in that locale. That when I see, and who knows what the buildings were based on, it was the Dogon architecture of Mali. That's what they took it from. That I should know when I'm home. I shouldn't be confused. Tokumbo, I'm not talking to you. I shouldn't be confused when I enter my estate and think I'm in Sugarland, Texas. A bad copy of it. I should know where I am. And you know how this happens? It happens because neighborhoods have a contextual veracity. So when I'm in Tuscany, there's a way it is built, right? If you're in Jerusalem, the first time I was in Jerusalem was 1995. Everything was just limestone of the same height. The same thing with Oxford. Oxford enforces it, so they continue to enforce these things with building codes afterwards. But in the beginning, because they realize it gives them a comparative advantage. It does not look like where you come from. So you come to look at it because it looks different. Meanwhile, we are trying to look like Dubai. It's a problem, isn't it? It's insecurity, but we'll get there. So one of the reasons why contextual veracity was part of the work of our ancestors was because a building will respond to one, its climate, number one. Number two, the available materials, right? So if it is mud that is available, they will not import concrete, right? If it is grass that is available, like the Bamileke people in Cameroon, they will use grass. Are you getting it? They will respond to the available technology. So if they don't have reinforced steel, they can't go above 2 floors. Are you listening to me? They will respond to the socio-cultural context. So if you are a rich man with plenty of wives, you will need a bagede to meet with your wives and everything. Automatically, big halls and courtyards. Therefore, the buildings produced in that environment begin to look what? Similar. Now, this idea that every time we get to an estate, the building that we design must stand out. This idea that we must ask, who dropped this building? This is rain oil that we designed, I don't know how many years ago. But at that time, that zone of Lekki was all residential buildings, and the client was really worried that he was going to face something called change of use. So we had to disguise the headquarters of an oil company, like something like an apartment building, while at the same time standing out. Did we succeed? It's not something I would do, otherwise. Clap if you want to clap. Thank you very much, Brandway was good to clap. It's not, maybe I would not have chosen to do that. It's not about a style. If it was a style, I wouldn't have done that. Do you get? But I wanted it to blend, which it does. This building is 829. In VGC. If you see it, it's like a fake Tuscan house outside. Just blends in with the neighborhood, the same heat roofs, is by the waterfront, but you enter and that's the shock of what you find inside. You see, we can be gentlemen and ladies, we can face the street, right, without disturbing the street that we live on, and be distinctive and then do anything we like inside. Contextual veracity. If the world is a global village, I agree, it is a global village. But you know, even villages have neighborhoods. When you are in Knightsbridge, in London, you know you are in Knightsbridge. When you are in Hendon, you know you are in Hendon. When you are in Brixton, you know you are in Brixton. Do you get what I'm saying? You should know what neighborhoods you are in, and it should look like it. Contextual veracity was something, our ancestors practiced. Gesamtkunstwerk, it's a German word. It's one of my principles. It talks about a total artwork. Now, our ancestors didn't have architects, builders, sculptors, interior designers. It was one man. Can I give you a Nigerian architect? I'll give you two. Ask for one, I'll give you two. You want one from the south or north? Ask one. South, your hand up. South, okay. Olowe Ovise. There was a architect known as Olowe Ovise. I think he had just like 2 or 3 wives, not many. And one of his wives was praising him for, he was a real architect, from the way he dresses to the way he is. I know in those days there were wars. So as one palace burns down to another, he was traveling from village to village. He would do the whole work, from the carvings of the doors. So if you go to the British Museum, right now they're borrowing from us for some time, just like a century or so, the door of the Ogoga's palace in Ikere. Now, you come to realize that that was not just a door, but you find out. So Olowe Ovise carved that door, for instance. So this is an opera word, Gesamtkunstwerk, meaning a total immersive artwork. It comes from Wagnerian operas, which means it's not just sound, it's dance, it's music, it's sound effect, it's light. In one word, I would have said it's a PDD concert, but I can't use PDD again, you know. So it was a Beyonce concert. Thank you. So, the African ancestral master builders, you wanted one from the north, nobody for the north? Yeah, very political issues are going on in this place, so ask for somebody from the north now. Babangwani, this is the Friday Mosque in Zaria. Amazing master builder. Amazing. Not only will he design, he would build, then he will sculpt, then he will paint. He became a legend, he became a myth. They said he sculpted and painted at night. They said when he finished one of his master buildings, I think a palace of an emir, that the emir killed him so that he will not design for somebody else. It's not the first time I will hear that. Either a king blinded an architect, in case your daughter wants to feel architecture in the damn form, is why I'm saying it. Either a king blinded an architect or killed an architect, so they will not do anything greater. But Gesamtkunstwerk talks about the totality. We do master plans in total, from the master plan down to the last tram stop. Do you see? One mind, that's what it means. So that it is holistic. Who else did that? Frank Lloyd Wright. Frank Lloyd Wright finished designing a building, then designed the dress for the client's wife. This is rain oil. So not only did we design the building, do everything, even the mobile that is stylized after the logo of the company, Gesamtkunstwerk. Zeitgeist. Zeitgeist refers to the spirit of the age. Our ancestors followed the zeitgeist. It was what was moving they were doing. How many people know Afro-Brazilian architecture? Okay, Campus Square in Lagos. Those architecture of Lagos, help me. Do you know anything about? So, okay, Ibadan. Most of the things you see in Ibadan, I don't know what they call the place, Itapadi, okay this, okay that. Those are actually derivations of Afro-Brazilian architecture. It came back as part of the zeitgeist when the returnees from Brazil came back, right? The slave returnees came back, people like Master. So they brought back the skills and immediately changed the architecture. So our ancestors did not build in mud because they liked mud. Therefore, if you want to become a star architect today, the idea is not, as an Afrocentric architect, let me dig a big pit and build in mud. The reason being, 1 cubic centimeter of mud, do you know how long it takes to form it? 200 years. Imagine ancient Kano was built in mud. I want to house the 20 million, I don't know if you believe the last census, inhabitants of Kano in mud. the ecological effect on Africa, it would be alarming. So zeitgeist will build according to the spirit of the age. This is Guiding Light Assembly, like I said. This was not my first choice, so you compromise a lot as architects. But according to the spirit of the age and what was being done then, this is what we morphed it into to please the client at that time. It's been published in German magazines and French and Italian. Next one, functional art. I need your attention. Our ancestors did not have the concept of art for art's sake. So you see, this, we go to a gallery and we look at the walls. I like it. It's channeling. They didn't have it. They didn't have that. Every piece of art, sorry if you are talking, thank you very much. I'll allow the people having the conversation to finish. Thank you. Yeah, because my audience is listening. Thank you very much. So, if our ancestors had any piece of art, the art had a purpose. It had a purpose. So even the mask I see in New York, in rich people's houses in the Upper East Side, it's probably your ancestor that they carried away because somebody was worshipping that thing. Egungun, gelede, masks. It was a spirit that was coming back for a spiritual reason. In the eyes of the person where I know that is Babataju that is on that thing. We know. But that's not. Even Babataju's wife cannot go near him anyhow when he's wearing that thing because he's challenging something. So we didn't have art for art's sake. So we too, as neo-heritage architects, we don't just have art for art's sake. All the art we have serves a purpose. This is the burglar screen in my studio, AD Consulting Studio. Now, instead of having a burglar bar, I decided to design a frieze with it. So why create a prison when I can create art? I know that people will break inside if there's no burglar bar, but you know, we can make it look pretty. So this is it. This is what I do with all my staircases are functional art. All my staircases are functional art. I make them function as a sculpture. It is beautiful to look at, but it's doing something. I mean, is it not beautiful to look at? Thank you. And the picture is distorted. The picture is not. I'm showing you a caryatid from Idori Hills. You see, a caryatid is a pillar, a column, so to say. But it's not just a column. It's decorated. It's carrying something. And I'll explain to you why it's also carved this way. Right. It's not a sculpture. It's carved that way because of the fourth dimension. That's the final one. See, I'm on time. Because I'm not looking at the time. You think I don't know what I'm doing. I do. The fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is that essence of great architecture that makes the architecture move your emotions. How many people know a quote by Le Corbusier, and I will paraphrase. It says, the building stands in one word, it functions, right? The bridge works. That is engineering. But I enter, my soul is touched, I am moved. That is architecture. And my humble self, my own quote is, architecture is art to live in. Art that actually functions, you can live in it. Do you see? And that is the fourth dimension. I can't go into what cues I play on the primal brain that makes the thing. Good architecture, sir, you hate it or you like it. You shouldn't be on the fence that, it works, at least it didn't fall. Let me tell you a secret about my husband. Any architecture that has straight walls, as far as my husband is concerned, is fantastic. Because he's seen too many that the walls are not even straight. So, this is one of our projects in Pinnock Beach, fourth dimension. This room gives you a vibe, right? Yeah. So it's a vibe. Immediately makes you feel somehow. It's an entertainment media room for one of the big boys, you know, amongst one of our projects. What then is the fourth dimension? It is Ashe. Yoruba people call it Ashe. It's an intangible force. It is the power of a space. Have you ever passed by a space and your hair stands on end? Tell the truth. You're wondering what happened here. What is this place about? You can't even tell why. You enter a place and you feel afraid. You enter another place and you feel happy, light, right? There's an intangible energy that is there. It is what people experience as they enter my buildings. It is the mastery which enables me to manipulate your connection to that space. Thank you. Thank you very much. So a star architect has an ideology, contributes something seminal to the profession, and it does not always have to be built works because sometimes they need patrons, like maybe Ecobank, or like rich people who must have the confidence not to fly to various places to bring people, right? But to work with those who understand, see it, the zeitgeist, the aspiration, the rhythm of the people. And a star architect must have ideology. You pay an artist for their vision and not their labor. So a star architect is someone with vision. Thank you once again. You've been an amazing, amazing, amazing audience. MC.
Pause one more time, ladies and gentlemen. Ma'am, can we take 2 questions? Is that okay? All right, 2 questions. Show of hands, please, if you have a question. Okay, so 1 question, 2. Finish. Thank you very much. All right, so please, as I come to you, please stand so that you can appear beautiful on camera. Say your name and ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Amara Victor Oguine. I'm a 400 level student from Covenant University, and I'm so pleased to be here and seeing women doing amazing things in an industry that I'm very passionate about always inspires me, always just ticks something inside of me, and I feel it every time I hear you speak. My question is very simple, actually. One word I would use to describe you is excellence, like excellence.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's a simple word, but it's very broad. You're excellent. I've heard so many people speak. I've heard so many things, and I just want to ask you this question. It's been in my heart, and I said I have to ask you this question. If that's something I live with today, I'll be very happy. What did you do to be this excellent? Like, why are you so excellent? What is that thing? What is that thing that you did? Like, is it a routine? Is it a mindset? Is it something that you continually build on, you continually work on? Like, is it a ritual? Like, what is that thing that has made you to be excellent in everything that you do beyond architecture, in life generally? Like, that's my question. Thank you very much.
Can you clap for her? Remember, you may be seated, Amara. Thank you so much. Remember that when I was taking the session, I said, the way to get a star architect is how to know how to ask the right questions. Because the right questions are more important even than the right answers. The right question tells me who I'm dealing with. So already I know I'm dealing with somebody who's headed for excellence. Because you said to me, is it in my routine? I'm not one of those Instagram people who will take, they say, when I wake up in the morning, I do my yoga, then I will not lie to you. It's not about that, but it's like I never arrive. Never arrive. Some people with beef cut off my introduction, but it's okay. Everything you see in that abridged introduction, I don't own it. I don't feel like, oh wow, you have tried though, only you visiting professor, only you they clap for here, only you Cartier. I don't feel anything. When I'm done now, I will most likely ask Ahmed, how did that session go? Oh, but I did not tell them that getting an architect is like getting a neurosurgeon. Which is, you don't tell the neurosurgeon, I would like brain surgery, operate on my daughter and my son and my husband, and let me know how it goes then. You can do my own. This is what people do with architects. I would say, why, I forgot that. I'm always thinking of how to improve. And yes, it now affects my routine. So, I'm ever learning. I wake up with purpose in mind, honestly. What is my purpose? You don't want to know what I've been through today, but I was here. Because of you. Because my intent will be, there will be young people in the room. So, I'm not actually here for anybody over 40. Except they're in procurement and they weren't here. So I was here for young people. I was here to encourage you, to inspire you, you understand? And it was worth my time. Purpose. What do I want to achieve? What is the intention? Learning. Once you have purpose, Amara, it makes you know what to say yes to and no to. All of a sudden you realize you don't have to be at every wedding. Yeah, and you don't have to take every ashwebi because you can't even afford it. Do you see what I'm saying? They call blue and you have blue. Where the blue you have? All those things begin to guide you very early in life. And you are right. Our core values in AD Consulting and in every one of my business concerns and the philanthropy is epic. Excellence, passion, integrity, and creativity. So if you say excellence, you're actually giving me feedback that we're on that journey to making it. Have I helped you? Thank you very much. Second question.
Thank you so much. I think it's a rare privilege to see you 3 times sitting under your lecture. The first one at the Peninsula, at the Energy Conference hosted by First Bank in the UK. The second one is in Oxford, African Business Alliance, University of Oxford.
See all the things that they cut out of my CV. People are doing media, beef. Thank you.
And today at this very important place for me, because when we launched one of our projects here in Nigeria, Ecobank was the first bank to sign an MOU with us. So and that's why
Can
I'm
you clap
back here.
for Ecobank? I too have my own Ecobank story, you see, but don't let it end there. Hint, you know.
And that's why I'm here this afternoon. Thank you so much. You said something about uniformity. I lived at FGC at some point in time when I was still in Nigeria, and there was a bit of uniformity from Road 1 to Road 47 where I lived there. And when you compare something like Oxford, you see a bit of Oxford journey, Oxford experience, because of the structure and not those that people really travel all over the world to come and watch. But at times now, when you get back to FGC now, you see a bit of distortion. Will you say uniformity is a credit or is a minus? Thank you.
You know, I talked about contextual veracity. Yeah, actually not uniformity, which will be different from the terrace house music. So it takes the music of the rhythm of the old. Maybe it's the roof shape. Maybe it's the limestone cladding. You see a lot of that in Germany, where old buildings have to be added onto. So not uniformity as much as respect for what has gone before you. Not being so egotistic to turn your back on everything that has gone before. You are part of a neighborhood. You know, be a good neighbor. I know that's not how it is done in some places where I hear that, you know, if you build a 3-story building and your neighbor builds 4, you tear your own down, you build 5, you know. But that's not how civilized people behave. Because you are forming a neighborhood, an experience, an immersion. You are a brand. Brand. If you want your neighborhood to become a brand, that's what they're doing in those estates I talk about. They want to create a certain vibe to attract a certain kind of people who like that vibe. You have to define yourself so you can attract those, right, who like what you are. Have I answered the question? Thank you.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Keep clapping, keep clapping. That was absolutely fantastic. All right. How many people were here for the first session? Fantastic. And you're here for this session as well. Do you see a lot of similarities in the things that we're learning today? A lot of similar themes, yeah? And it's exciting because the themes that I saw most expressed, the major theme is that it's time for Africa to rise. It's time for us as interesting people in the built environment to actually build Africa, to build Nigeria, to build our countries, but with local context in mind. All right, so that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, still continuing in that vein, we're going to our next speaker. As I said before, today is going to be a packed day of learning. You will take insights from here that you will apply immediately to your lives, and it will change your lives completely. All right, so super excited to be here. Okay, next up, our next speaker is an executive director at ACCL, that's Adeni Coca Consultants Limited, a multidisciplinary firm of architects and engineers operating out of Lagos, Nigeria. With over 25 years of industry experience, he has served on the board of the company for about 20 years, being responsible for sourcing, managing, and executing project portfolios. He's also had membership of professional bodies, including the National Institute of Architects, Association of Consulting Architects, and Architects Registration Council of Nigeria. He also currently holds board positions in other companies across different industries, some of which are startups, helping to navigate the strategic positioning and growth of these organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we welcome up on stage Director of ACCL, Yinka Ogundairo. Round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. Keep clapping to the guests up on stage. Keep clapping, keep clapping. Thank you very much, sir. He's going to speak about designing and building in a developing society. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, I'll use this one. We should let the, no, it's fine, let the hall settle down. Good afternoon, everyone. I think we'll just let the hall settle down, and then we'll be able to commence. If you don't mind, I want to take off my jacket. I'm not... We're used to being on site, so all this jacket business, but it's okay. So let me take it off. Okay, thank you, media. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, again. Thank you for being here. As introduced, my name is simply Yinka Ogundairo, one of the partners in ACCL Adeni Coca Consultants. The firm has been around for about 35 years, and so that has given us the opportunity to take part in different parts, in different projects, and then more importantly, as it dovetails to this topic, to be around and see the landscape in the construction industry change over the years. Over a 35-year period, about 3.5 decades, things change. And when you practice in the environment and you try and make sure that at the end of the day you stay at the top of your game, you have to keep evolving. So that has given us a viewpoint as to the issues of design and build. Okay. So the topics we will cover, so that we give context. I don't know if it's very clear there to everyone, but the topics that we will cover would involve just giving a background, okay, as to identifying, first defining design and build. What exactly is design and build? Identifying the different types of building procurement, construction procurement, the evolution, how this has evolved over time, the future of what is going to happen, okay? Now, the topic is about the design and build, okay, in a developing nation or society. So again, we need to understand what that means, a developing nation or a society. Then we're going to now zero in on Nigeria and then give historical context to what we were doing before. Then we're going to look at design and building itself in Nigeria. Then we'll look at the drivers. Then we'll talk about the pros and cons. And then we'll try and close on that. Okay, so defining design and build. We all have an idea defined as a contractor initiative. That is actually not correct. There are two types of design and build. There's a design-led design and build, and there's a contractor-led design and build. Let me put it this way. There's an architect-led design and build, and then there's a contractor-led design and build. So what you have around here most of the time is a contractor-led design and build. So there's a distinction between the two. Sorry, I have to be pointing there. Okay, identify different types of project delivery. So this is not very clear, so I might just have to come here. So this slide just tries to show us the different types of the project delivery. So as I said earlier on, there are different types, and design and build is just one of them, just one of the several. Now, there are several around the whole world. They are even here, but knowing that we're a developing nation, it begins to evolve. So you've got design, bid, and build, which is when you actually now get a consultant, you do the design, then you go to tender, then you get a contractor. That's design, bid, and build. Design build is when, like I said, it's either partnership. This is usually between the public entity, which in most cases is the government, okay, and the private sector, meaning that the private sector, because this is always driven because of finances and funding. So in that case, the government will give out bids, and then you have a private investor who is willing to take on that project, okay? And then you have build, operate, and transfer that happens. You've got job order contracts, you've got build, operate, transfer. So you have a lot of all these trends of the different types of procuring construction projects. And so what happens is around the whole world, okay, everybody is using one system or the other, okay? And these systems are dependent on where that society is at and what the issues are at that time. So this slide here shows you in a bit of it what you have happening. So some of the names, some of the ones I called out, you would have them, for example, the IPD, Integrated Project Delivery. You see it happening in North America, you see it happening in Europe. If you go to PPP, it's usually in Europe, in Canada, and Asia, and Africa. So you see that all these different parts of the world have their own that they use, depending on exactly what is happening in those localities. So let's talk about the evolution. That was what was used in that era, as far back as that time. So some of these things that we're doing today are not necessarily that they originated now. The ones that are originated now are done on the basis of technology. They are done on the basis of the current issues in which we face. Things like sustainability, like climate change. So as you see humanity develop and the issues within our built environment change, then different systems now start coming up in order to adapt and address those issues, okay? So if you go further down again, construction management risk was around in the 60s. IPD came up in 1990s and 2000s because, again, of technology, BIM and all these other factors, okay? PPP came in the 20th century, and then on and on and on and on and on. But again, that is to give the idea that what you have in different areas and how they have evolved. All this is to provide a context to which, when we begin to talk about design and build in Nigeria, when you talk about the future of construction projects, we're getting to the point in which we're moving to AI designs, from AI designs, and then you have printers, and the printers will actually print the building. End of story. So that's the direction in which we're going. And that is like a development of the whole IPD, the integrated one, where an AI computer will design the whole thing, send it to the 3D printer. The 3D printer, they actually now have buildings that are fully 3D printed. fully 3D printed and are being used. So that's the future, and that's the direction in which we're headed. Okay, let's define a developing society or nation, and I think this picture just speaks 1,000 words. And I'm going to do a bit of talking in this regard. Now, if you look at this picture, you see in the foreground, you see the slums. This is not an adjusted picture. This is a real picture. You see in the foreground, you see the slums, and then you see at the back of it, you see the high rises. But that's the story of the developing nation, because the developing nation is caught in two stages, or in two definitions. And you have a part of the society that see life or see their reality through the background of the skyscrapers and the built environment. And then the other side of society live in these conditions and totally different. But unfortunately, when we're having these conversations, we talk like our reality is just the skyscrapers. And that's a challenge. And just today, I got something on one of the platforms that was on how data has misled the African analytics. What does that mean? Because of the limited data in which we get, so we take our positions and inferences from the little we have, and we conclude that that is what is happening. But can I submit to you that Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano, Ibadan, it's not Nigeria. That is not the whole of Nigeria. Nigeria is every local government, every town, every village, every nook and cranny. So if we're going to be discussing design and build in Nigeria, then what, for example, I know all of you are from VA and Ikoyi, you're all big boys, that's fine. But you know the people who come from certain villages elsewhere, just think about it. How do they really build? You and I know that there are some buildings you will see. You too know that nobody was involved in this thing. The man just said, once you get here, put 6 blocks here, 3 here, put roof, put room for me, and that's it. But guess what? That is construction. That is construction. But because we don't have data on that, we tend not to talk about it. So even as we have these discussions, please note that we are limited by the data that is available, which limits us to the Lagos and the Abujas and the Kanos and the cities. But the reality is that if we're going to make a change or have a rounded conversation, then we should also include those areas, because they actually form a larger part of our society than the others. They actually form a larger part of the society, okay? All right. So that is in terms of defining the developing nation. So the history of construction in Nigeria, it goes in different eras. Again, I'm watching my time, so someone should please help me when I hit like 30 minutes. Yeah. So we had the pre-colonial era, okay, for construction. During that time, it was just community. So if you want to build your house, you call all your family. You know, you had many children then. Call the family, call everybody. We get the material from next door. We build the house. The community is happy, and everybody moves on. That was pre the colonial era. So now, when we moved into the colonial era, which is from about 1900 to about 1960, so what had happened is that the British actually now formalized construction. And so the moment they formalized construction, the first system that was used was the design, bid, and construct. That was actually the first one that was used within that area, the design, the bid, and then the construct. So we moved away from that area and we moved to the independence area, the post-independence era, which is from about 1960 to, let me get that right here. The post-independence era, 1960 to 1980. Okay, now, what happened during this period was that we still continued the DBB, which is the design, the build, and the construct era. However, something else came into the market, and that was turnkey. That was turnkey projects. Now, what does turnkey mean? Turnkey means, and it was really came by foreigners bringing in expertise, okay, and they were able to deliver fully on the projects, because at that time, we started doing complex projects. Now, please do not pigeonhole your minds to buildings and co. When we talk about construction, we're talking about dams, bridges, power plants. Those are the kind of things. Ajaokuta steel mill. All those things were big deals those days. And the expertise to carry them out was not available. In fact, when we're talking to some of our senior colleagues in architecture, and we had a meeting, and they said, look, those days, in the 70s and early 70s and co, if an architect got a job in Nigeria, he was allowed to go and look for a technical partner out there. He would actually go and get a technical partner because the society was just developing, and so you do not have all the skills in-house to do it. You understand? So that was in that area. So in the era of 1960 to 1980, turnkey projects came in. Then you now had the structural adjustment area, 1980 to 2000. By that time, the government was starved of funds. And as the government was starved of funds, that was when PPP came into. PPP means the public-private partnership. And at that point, people would bring in the money and then run projects for the government. Then the domestic era, which was during a democratic era, well, design and build, that's when design and build actually started, and build, operate, transfer started, because then there was a lot of confidence in the country and investment started coming in. Foreign investment started coming into the country, and because of that, the design and build operate happened. Then you've got 2010 to present, and you've got the integrated project delivery, and the main thing about that one is that it's just more technology, using technological advancements to be able to actually put these projects together. Okay, so again, so if you look at our history and you look at the trends, every trend that has happened has been based on where the nation has found itself, where we have found ourselves politically, where we have found ourselves economically, where we have found ourselves in terms of the knowledge that is available. And on the basis of that, that is the system in which we always use. Now, if we now zero in to the actual design and build, which is the conversation, I mean, we've actually talked about that. We've defined what design and build is. But there's a distinction we have to make because there's an error that is going on in the markets. Remember, I've said this is your big people's market of Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Co., not my village one. So this error is this. There's design and build, okay? But there's design, build, and own, which is development. Now, a lot on the market, in times, we make the mistake and call design, development, and own, we call it design and build. It's not design and build. Design and build is when you provide a service to someone, and you would actually provide a design service and a build service. But development is when you, by yourself, you design for yourself, you construct by yourself, and you own, which is what a lot of some of the real estate companies are doing right now. So development is different from design and build. Design and build is what people like Julius Berger will typically do. They will design the bridges, they will design those things that are complex, do you understand? And they will build them for the government or for a private entity. So it's very important that we have a distinction between that, okay? Okay, design and build, yeah, sorry, I didn't move the slide. Then design and build again. Sorry, supposed to be pointing there. Okay, so there are drivers. There are drivers that push this. The whole, so we're now really talking about the whole design and build issue. And why do we have design and build in Nigeria? Why is it becoming so popular? Why is it becoming attractive? It's because there are drivers. And these drivers are not just limited to Nigeria. We're in a global market, we're in the global village. So whatever forces that make these things become the same, like we showed you the map, then Nigeria is not different from that. Some of those drivers include infrastructure deficits. You know, for us now, in terms of infrastructure, if I talked about one that everybody will be familiar with, stuff like power. Look at it now. We don't, how many power plants do we have? We don't have enough to serve the whole country. So that's an infrastructure deficit. So on the basis of that, somebody will come in and say, look, we've got the expertise, we've got everything. Their projects were on, and Siemens and Co. will tell you, look, they're going to bring the design and they're going to build it. You understand? So we've got that infrastructure deficit. We've got cost control and budget constraints because there's a belief that if you go ahead and do design and build, you're going to be more efficient. The contractor will give a higher discount because he's involved in the building process. Single point of accountability, meaning you're only dealing with one person. That's it. You're only dealing with one person. You don't have to deal with the consultants and deal with the contractor. So you have a single point, okay? Then you've got limited technical capacity, okay? Now, what this means is that, for example, now, and I'm going to throw the curve out a lot. If I say, oh, let's build a space station. Let's come and build a space station in Nigeria. How many? Okay, I know Nigerians. There's nothing we cannot do. We say we can do it. Then we'll figure it out later. But the reality is this: if we're to say, okay, let's build a space station now, we don't have that technical competence within the country. So you'll be forced to actually invite people to make it happen. Government policies and reforms. Government policies and reforms is, I'm sure you've heard about making Nigeria a good place to do business, the ease of doing business. Those are the kind of things that bring design and build in. Corruption mitigation, that if you take it out of government circles, you'll be able to deliver without the issues of corruption. Technology adoption, meaning that as it is now, the whole world is talking BIM and finding ways to use technology to be able to do things faster. So a lot of all those technical knowledge still reside outside of the country. Private sector demand, like I said earlier on, there are people who believe that it's better to work with the contractors. So you've got all those kind of drivers that make the drivers that push this agenda. Okay, I need to hurry up. Now, the pros and the cons. The pros and cons will be what? I'll just run through them. It's a fast project delivery. It's cost efficient. I'm talking about the pros now. Single point of accountability. Reduction in corruption and delays. It's adaptable to large-scale projects. It encourages innovation, fewer disputes. Some of the cons, disadvantage is it's limited competition in design, which means that since the focus is on construction, that in terms of design, nobody's really looking at that. That you don't have a lot of focus on that. Then you've got higher initial costs because now the contractors have to price. So what they will do is that they would actually now price, at a higher rate. Then the risk of contractor overreach, meaning that, look, once a contractor is involved, he's Lord and Master. I mean, he's involved in the design process, he's involved in the construction process, so he's just going to do whatever he likes. Inadequate technical expertise, meaning that we still have that gap within our system, and so because of that, it makes it very difficult. Regulatory challenges, that is the conversation in which we need to be having with our government agencies and co. That because most of the time, we're always playing catch-up, meaning that we don't have the laws and the regulatory guidelines that protect. And it's only after these projects or these initiatives come that we now start coming up with laws that protect what? They're always too late. So that is a problem we have, okay? Then unsuitable for complex projects. Yes, because when you are doing a very complex project where there's a lot of conversation on design and things like that to get everything right, if you don't spend enough time there, then you're going to have a problem. Then the finance risk, of course, all these projects that are design, build, and co, if the contractor goes down, that's it, it's over, game over. Once the contractor goes down, game over, everything is over. So on the basis of that, it's a very serious risk. Okay, so the design and build model offers significant benefits to Nigeria, and we're not immune to the forces and the things that drive it. However, in our own opinion, the position we should take should be one that we actually encourage it, okay? We welcome the trend. However, we've got to do it in a way that we protect what our own society is. What does that mean? That for every dollar of investment that comes into the country, it must strengthen our financial institution. It's not about the dollar coming in, doing a project and going out. No. For every skill or expertise that is imported into the country to execute a project, then there must be knowledge transfer. So some Nigerian must be learning from the fact that that project is going on, which is a trend that China does and Saudi Arabia and Middle East. That's what they do. You can come in and do whatever you like, but you will have to train our people, okay? For every project that is done, our regulatory agencies, for every contract that is signed, our regulatory agencies must have laws that protect every single person in this country. And then finally, for every project that is executed here, there must be a value add to the Nigerian citizenry. That way, the trend actually makes sense for us, and that way, we're not just building buildings and we're not just building projects. Then we're actually now building the whole of Nigeria. And you know, as the slogan that I think that Ecobank are trying to push is that building Nigeria together. So in order to build Nigeria together, we have to see every building and every project as an opportunity to build more just than that building, but to build the people, to build our skills, the expertise, to build our financial institutions and regulatory environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Absolutely fantastic. I think the most interesting thing for me was just how much goes into construction that I never thought of before. It's just interesting to learn so much. All right, do we have any questions? We have 1, 2. All right, sir. 3. Okay, so we'll start with her and then we'll come to you. All right, thank you. I will come to you, sir. Yes. So please, your name and then quickly to your question. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. My name is Adedamola. I work with Acmo Concept as a managing partner. For design and build, I appreciate the fact that you start with the history and the trend and what we stand to benefit through the pros and the cons. So I want to find out if there are policy around partnership, of design and build that has been developed privately, because I'm aware that the government mandated the expatriates and the indigenous consultants, maybe in the course of, it depending on the type of contract that was involved in. So is there any ongoing private partnership, or how will you advise we do this within ourselves as we grow, into the technical, the tech age? Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. Your question is a super question, because it's something that has been a challenge, and a lot of all the organizations, Nigerian Institute of Architects, so that way the issues of knowledge transfer and economics and all that is balanced. Now, the reality is that happening? No. So I think some of the problem we also have in the Nigerian society is the fact that most of us don't even know the laws first, but we will complain. We will complain, but we don't even take the time to know the laws that we have to protect us. You understand? That's number one. Number two is that, as you well know, self-interest is always what kills this thing. So there's someone sitting there who knows that this shouldn't happen, but then because of selfish interest, then they let it slide. And but the Mozone, I think they've changed it now because of some issues, but that was the way they protected it. So even when you even come in, before you can even say you are doing anything, 40% is already on the side. Anything, 40% is already on the side. So I think what we need is forum like this, have the conversation, advocacy to make sure, let's even understand the laws we have. Plus, some of our laws are outdated. So outdated, they are no longer relevant. So those laws have to be brought up. For example, and this is a global problem, you talk about, oh, somebody can only do work if he's an architect here. The guy is sitting remotely, working in Scotland, and he's sending drawings here. He doesn't have to be here anymore. The borders have changed. The borders are no longer physical divides. The borders are in the digital space. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with taxation? Where's the guy actually working? He's sitting in the UK, he's working here, he's earning the money there, but the value is being created here and there's no tax here. There's no tax benefits. So a lot of all those laws have to be looked at to deal with the current realities of where we are. I hope that has helped a bit.
Thank you very much, sir. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Architect Yusuf. Yes, you talked about different types of design and build. You talked about the architect-led design and build, and you also talked about the contractor-led design and build. And when you were speaking, you also talked about design, build, and own. which is being done by most of the developers. Now, my question is, how can we bridge that gap? Because I'm sorry to use the word, in the real estate space now, what you find out is that most of the things that are done are not really professional. As an architect, when I go for inspection with some of my clients, and sometimes we get into arguments with developers because some are after the perfection of the titles, but me as an architect, I'm looking at the building, I'm looking at the design. So you find out that most of these developers don't even have a consultant that are doing the design for them. You understand? They just get somebody to design and they build on their own. And eventually you have buyers who are paying hundreds of millions. And for me, I feel you are not getting an equivalent value to what you are buying. So sometimes I get into this space and, you know, at the end of the day, you just have to find a way to, you know, just go along with them because of what is coming out as a commission. I don't know if it force these developers to do the right thing. Because if you get into the system, sometimes I have to ask, who is your consultant? Who is doing this for you? And they'll be like, okay, why are you trying to, you understand? So do we have policy in place that can checkmate this process so that we can have a good environment, we can have good design, we can have good buildings? It's not that you are putting up terraces that you have room that is just ventilated by a small window that you, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to start from the end of the question you asked. This is what I'll say. If you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. And it costs you a lot, but there's a price for doing the right thing. And so when you say that, what do you do when you get to that kind of situation? There's only one thing to do. You say the truth and you walk away. Now, people will say, well, you can say that because you can afford to. No. It's not because I can afford to. It's costing me. But I'm determined to pay that price. So for the legacy of excellence. You understand? So I'm determined to say that, look, I'll stick my guns, okay? And I know this is going to come around full circle. We are the infancy of this whole design and build trend, okay? So if you put up a building today, and when do you think you're going to start noticing the defects in that building? The building will be completed, the owners will move in. It will take about 2, 3, 4, 5 years. All of a sudden, we'll really know if these buildings are properly built or not. By that time is when the market will realize the difference between a properly built building and one that hasn't been built properly. Unfortunately, as everywhere in the world, there's always the trend. So everybody follows the trend, okay? Until you now see the disadvantages of that trend, it becomes difficult to judge it. But the duty that we have, okay, but we also have a problem, and I'll tell you what the problem is. The duty we have is to stand our ground and point these things out. Now, if you point it out long enough, somebody would listen. The problem is we're sitting down there, and unfortunately, now you're saying this, I assure you, if you line up 10 people, okay, and say, oh, there's a problem here, 9 will take that job because they just want to take the money. There's no demand, there's no supply. You understand? But if we all stand up and say, no, we have to do the right thing, then it becomes difficult for them to continue to get away with it. The second aspect, the second answer to that question is this. The problem is that you architects are too timid. You're too timid. Now, we've just said there's the architect-led design and build, and there's a contractor-led design and build. What is stopping you from putting it together? The first thing you're going to tell me is, where will I find the money? Who asked you for money? Who asked you for money? Somebody will say, ideas rule the world. And when you have a good idea, you find money to fund it. You put together the consortium. Show them how a building can be done as design and built, led by the architect, and you will still hold to the principles of design that eventually will pay the clients. Now, once you do that once, everybody likes what is good. Once you do that once and it works, then you begin to see the shifts. But what has happened is that we've just all stepped back and said, you know what, design and build is contractual. It's wrong. So I think what we need to do is step up, do you understand, and show that these things can be done properly, and show what a good building looks like and what a not so good building looks like. Unfortunately, the building gestation period takes time. So from the time of design and the guy sees the error, it's 5-7 years. He doesn't come back to tell you what he's going through then.
Together, thank you very much. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maureen. I wanted to ask a question on this subtopic, the future of construction projects. You briefly said we'll design and it will be printed. So from the engineering perspective, so when we start to print buildings, you said you've been in the industry for 35 years. I don't know if we'll get to that point anytime soon, but when we start to print buildings, what will be like a path to follow for someone that is just coming into the industry to give you an edge to be part of the minority? You understand me?
I don't understand. Are you an architect?
No, I'm not.
What do you do?
I'm a structural engineer.
You better find another work. Okay, so let me answer you this way. Jack Ma, I think that's one of the rich guys. So he was asked about the advent on AI and the effect on the workforce and what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Artificial intelligence is going to take over everybody, da, 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 da. And he said, look, he doesn't understand why everybody is panicking. That no matter how good artificial intelligence is, there are unique human intelligence a computer can ever remove. That so you go for the unique human intelligence that a computer cannot replace and do what you need to do. I even have a slightly different twist to it. Say you want to go to the computer and tell it to design and to print. I don't have a problem. I'll own the computer, go to it, you pay me. Do you understand? The truth about it is that we have to embrace the future and find our place in the future. No matter what comes down the line, there is a place for you. Analyze it, look at it, and see what you have to do. There are unique human intelligence a computer can never, ever, ever, no matter the amount of data analytics he uses, he cannot replace it. So there will be that bit of it. Do you understand? So as to the reality of it, yes, it is a reality for whereby, because it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be faster, it's going to cut out a lot of waste. Do you understand? And so there will be those advantages that come along with doing that. But there will be disadvantages. And it's in those disadvantages that we need to plug the hole and make sure that at the end of the day, that we actually come up with buildings and humanity still finds itself. At the end of the day, I'll remove the plug to the computer now, so that he can't be doing whatever he doesn't want to do. But seriously, I don't think it's something we should be afraid of. I think, again, typically what tends to happen is that once there is a trend, especially information, digital information, everybody starts to shy away and panic. Mankind has, okay, we've moved to slide. Mankind has always evolved, always. And each time there's change, there's always that anxiety as to what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen. Nothing will happen. We will deal with it and we will move on. All right. We're good?
Can I have my mic turned up, please? All right. Thank you very much. Do we have, I can take one last question, just one more. No? You okay. All right. Was someone raising your hand there? No? Okay. All right, sir. Okay, so please stand up, introduce yourself, and then ask your question. Thank you, sir.
All right. Hi, my name is Femi. I have a question and also a contribution. And I think I came in when you were talking about sort of things that the architects can do, developing consortium, etc. But I think all over the world, most of the mass development is led by the developers and by the contractors. So when do we start speaking to them? The architects can only do so much, and I think a lot of times we forget that architecture is really an innovation business. And so when do we
architecture is really what?
An innovation business.
Okay.
So for instance, even with the person who was talking about 3D printing, one of the ways that you can inject yourself into that scheme is actually the fact that 3D printing kind of works on a system of diagrids. So as a structural engineer, you can actually engineer the code for that 3D printing. So those are the ways that you can make the building or whatever. But I think my contribution is how can we really have these hard conversations with the developers, because clearly there's a taste problem in the market, and how do we elevate the taste?
Okay, so there's a bit of, some of that has been asked, but I will just repeat a bit. I think we give too much room to, it's a developer, and because we haven't embraced it, you understand? And I think the first thing is to confront it, just confront it as it is. Some of the research that I did, to be honest with you, we always knew that aspect of the design, the designer or the architect-led designer. We've actually done it before. We've done an $8 million project, design and build, led by us. So it's not like it's something we haven't done before. But we didn't embrace it as one of the areas we should focus on. We focused on consultancy. You understand? But if we had at that time looked at it as a viable alternative, then, and this was about 17 years ago, so can you imagine where we would be today? But we focused on it, and I think one of the biggest challenges we have as professionals is that we're not ambitious, and we're risk averse, and we don't like change. It's that training. But unfortunately, the world is no longer like that. The entire world is changing. If you don't change, you will lose. Period. Look at one industry. Tell me one industry that is not changing. Just think about it. The oil industry, they ran the entire world for years. They are forced to change now from from oil companies to renewable energy companies. Automotive industry, from gas, from petrol and diesel cars to electric. Everybody's changing. Computer, we don't even talk about computer science anymore. Everything is in the cloud. Why don't you want to change? Why do we find it hard to change? It's because we haven't looked at it. But we know the brain power we have. That brain power to do the designs and solve complex things. If only we moved it, I will, well, not shock you, but do you realize that some of the owners of architectural practices are they're not architects. They're investors. So they come in and take the power of the ability to design and innovate and create, and they use it positively for their ends. So I think we just have to have a mindset shift and say, okay, you know what, that's fine if that's the trend. And it is a trend we cannot go against, because it is a trend that is coming from the development of humanity, whereby everything is coming together, software, all those things are coming together to make things faster. So if don't fight the wave, ride it, and ride it to your own advantage. Right? Thank you.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, sir. That was absolutely fantastic. All right, thank you very much. So please keep clapping, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, sir. All right. Right about now, we will go into our panel session. But before we get there, I'll just chat with a few people as well again. You look so afraid because I said I'll chat with a few. Can I get a spare mic? Oh, I have one here, don't worry. Yes. All right. Thank you very much. We have a panel session coming up in a few minutes where we'll get to speak with some of the foremost architects here in Nigeria. And they've worked on some of your favorite buildings, so I'm very excited for that panel session. Let's let the hall quiet down a bit. Okay, fantastic. Folks that are sat at the back on this row, please, I'd like to crave your indulgence. Please, let's come forward. Let's come forward. Guys, please, let's all come forward. Thank you very much. Put your hands together for them. Thank you. The front is for excellent people. let's come to the front, please, so that you look great in photos, so that we don't have empty seats in front. We can leave this ones reserved. Yes, no, sir. Looking like a black beauty like you, sir. No, please. The place of honor. Thank you very much. All right. All right.
Well, my name is Ade Laoye. I'm the founding partner of ECAD Architects. We've just completed one of our any city. Yeah, and as you know, architecture is about designing, and architecture is also about building. Without the architectural design, there's no building. You know, which one comes first, the chicken or the egg? So once you design, and you design well, and you design for what they call affordable housing, you design for villas, you design for cities, you design for villages. And once you've designed that, that now becomes the build. The build is linked to the design. Two of them work together. And it's important that architects, contractors, developers, specifiers, and suppliers all work together in harmony to create a wonderful city that will work for everybody.
Hi everyone, my name is Yinka Ogundaro, one of the partners in Adene Ecobank Consultants. We're a firm of architects and engineers. When you look at the Nigerian discourse in terms of what architecture has done and contributed to Nigeria, you will find out in the very beginning that architecture has helped us to even establish our identities. Urbanization happened, and then a lot of people moved into the cities, and you will find that we started growing our cities. Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt. We needed bigger buildings to take care of the massive urbanization that was happening. Architecture had a role to play in this. And even as our society developed, we needed more specialized buildings, schools, hospitals, cinemas, theaters, and all these kind of things that kind of showing that we were developing as a nation. A lot of the materials we use are imported. Now we have to come up with locally sourced materials that can be used at an industrial scale, such that we will be less dependent on importation. So architecture definitely has a role to play in our discourse and our national discourse as we go into the future. But one very important thing, even though we're part of a global village, architecture must help us to always remember who we are and give us that identity as Nigerians.
My name is Adeye Moshokumbi. I'm a co-creative director at Patrick Wahi Design Consultancy. I'm an architect working in Nigeria, and we are now at a crossroad, in my opinion, that our architecture needs to start reflecting the environment that it's in, the context, the heritage, the history, all the things that would give Nigerian architecture the credibility that it deserves. The journey so far is that we're now at a crossroads where I believe that it is important to start imbibing some of the...
With over 10 years in the design space, actually before I start to speak about my panelists, if you're just joining us, welcome. We have two major, they're not rules, they're just principles. The first one is please put your phones on silent, put them on vibration so that we're not hearing your ringtone while someone is speaking. It helps us concentrate. It also helps you to benefit from this session as well. The second thing, and the most important to me personally, whenever I welcome anybody up on stage or I say, you know, put your hands together for someone, I need you to bring the energy from within. All right? I need them to understand that they are your favorite person. Like you've seen Cristiano Ronaldo made flesh. Are we together? Fantastic. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, our first panelist with over 10 years in the design space has done it all, from graphic design to physical item design, and now to leading in-house design teams. He cares very deeply about sustainability and how all stakeholders in the design space can collaborate to build a sustainable future. He also leads OMI Collective, a multidisciplinary research and design collective. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and make welcome Femi Adewuyi, Architectural Associate at Studio Contra. Keep clapping, keep clapping, keep clapping. Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right. Next up, our next panelist has over a decade of experience in the design space, with roles cutting across all types of design. Her passion is in ensuring inclusivity in space design. She's the current head of design at Space Finish, a global design and workspace strategy firm who I dare say have designed some of the most iconic buildings in Nigeria, iconic spaces. But before Space Finish, this person also worked at Oshinowo Studio, a leading architecture firm in Lagos, Nigeria, where she handled the design and project management of the Maryland Mall in Ikeja. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome the head of design at Space Finish, May Lawani. Rousing round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Keep clapping as she gets up on stage. We have brought together the absolute best for this session. You should be absolutely excited. Fantastic. All right, our final panelist has over 13 years experience in the industry, and they've designed some of the most impressive houses in Africa. They've been featured on DW, Architectural Digest, and are the first Nigerian architect to be featured in the 100+ years of the International Design Authority. His passion is to ensure that the space he designs for you becomes a home, and he does this while keeping sustainability at the forefront. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome architect to the stars, Akose Enebeli, principal architect at LAG Design. Keep clapping, keep clapping. Thank you very much. Thank you, Akose. Thank you. Fantastic. All right, and to welcome our moderator up on stage, To welcome our moderator, this person has, and it makes me kind of sad. I kind of wish I had stayed, you know. I might have built a city somewhere in the bush. But I'm really excited to have all of you here. Thank you so much. Please, once more, a round of applause for them, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I just want to be able to see all my panelists very well. Yeah, so we're speaking about the power of collaboration in design. So just first off, right, there's a certain myth that designers are solitary creatures. They like to be celebrities. Architects like to work alone. They like to be by themselves. They never want to work with others or don't work well with others. So just with that mindset, what would you say collaboration, why is collaboration important? What does it mean to you? Why should anybody care about it? So start with you, yes.
Great. Collaboration is very important, and I don't think that myth is very true, because even if you're able to conceptualize and develop an idea yourself, it comes from within. Executing that design, I can almost bet that you cannot do that alone, because if it's going to go from conceptualization to, let me say building, because you can design anything, right? But if you talk about a building, you're not going to finish conceptualizing. Then you go ahead to do all your drawings, your detailing, you get your approvals, only you. You go to site, only you. You build the foundation, you build up the house, you paint. It's impossible for one person to go through from inception to completion without collaborating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What I got from that is essentially that because of collaboration, you're able to do more creative work. You're actually able to do more interesting things instead of focusing on trying to be the be-all and all.
Try and finish out everything. You can't do everything.
Interesting. All right, May, what do you think about like collaboration? Why do you think it's important?
I kind of think that notion exists, that designers like to work in isolation. There is this...
it exists, right?
Personality kind of thing,
okay.
Right? But obviously, like with what Akose has mentioned, you can't do everything yourself. What I've noticed is that people have different strengths and areas of weaknesses, and that is how at Space Finish we work together. It's about identifying each other's strengths and actually utilizing that strength to the success of anything on any given project. So I think that is really the power of collaboration. It also helps with just enhancing quicker things, right? In brainstorming and also like just solving problems, because at the end of the day, you're just one person. You can't solve all the problems, really. So it's really critical in solving problems.
Interesting. Thank you very much. So essentially, it is everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. Collaboration means you want to choose from the different strengths, weaknesses of, just try to balance it all out on the team. Fantastic. All right, for you, Femi, what do you think about collaboration? Why is it important? Why do we care about it?
I think the first thing to understand is that every project, first of all, is a collaboration between the client and the architect. And the architect might be represented by, or the architecture firm might be represented by somebody who's the face. But really, there's a lot of people who are at the background. In the office, we kind of look at collaboration in 5 sort of steps. The one that happens with the clients, the one that happens with the contractors, where we actually, test, prototype, create products. The one that happens even after that, because we try to maintain that relationship as a way to foster more projects, but also to learn for other projects. And even with OMI Collective, one of the reasons why OMI Collective is named Collective is literally to tell everybody in the world that it is a collaborative effort. So yes, it's the heart of every practice.
Interesting. That's really interesting. And this is for you, Femi, because I know OMI Collective came from a desire to build. Did that. He's so great. So how do you balance expressing creativity while also ensuring that the strategic objective or the team objective is met? Yeah.
I think, first of all, I should probably say a bit about OMI Collective. OMI Collective is a design and research practice. A lot of what we're doing currently is a lot of the research that's going to feed some of the development that we're going to see in Nigeria. I think, and I was saying earlier, that one of the things that we forget is that architecture is an innovation business. And yes, it's great to build stuff, but is it really, really solving a real problem? Yes, sometimes to a client, but even when you look at Nigeria, there's a lot of developmental issues, and we have nobody plugging that hole. So for me, my practice is not stylistic. It is about identifying a problem and proposing a solution. So I don't really care to have this building looks like a family, because really, 100 years down the line, that's not going to live. It's the idea that's going to live.
That's beautiful. So it's more fixing structural problems, and I love that. But for you, it's not that, right? It is, if you're building out a space or you're working to finish a project, if I worked on your team, honestly, I would like to leave an imprint of myself, even if it's just one stool or one chair or something. So how do you deal with people wanting to show their creative chops?
I think, first of all, we have different creatives at Space Finish with different personalities, and as the head of the team, it's my responsibility to manage that tussle, right? I think having a great leadership in allowing people to, first of all, be okay to express their ideas is so important, because you don't want to stifle creativity. So you want people to be very expressive and churn out the ideas, right? That's the first stage. Let them be very okay to churn out those ideas, and also giving very constructive feedback, right? And not just saying, oh, that design doesn't really
my favorite is yes and. I think they use it in improv. It's like, oh, yes. Well, maybe not yes and, maybe like but. Here, how about we do it like this? And I really like the idea of asking clarifying questions, like to make the person then think through the thing. Because sometimes people are excited and just share something that pops into their head. So there's a world where you just say, you know why did you say this? And then it makes them think and like, actually, that doesn't make sense. So thank you so much. So Fergie, as someone who cares deeply about collaboration as much as you do, what would you say are what's the most egregious challenge or the greatest challenge you faced when you've tried to collaborate on a project or something?
I think also because of the nature of the kind of work that I do, the kind of collaboration that we do is not traditional. So we're constantly collaborating with technologists, XR, AR, photographers, researchers, and all of that. And so a lot of time, I think the biggest problem that I have or that I find is trying to let people understand that the way we want to work is for them to take ownership of every aspect of the project and every aspect of the work. And in such a way that, like I said, I don't care that's my face, that you can go anywhere and represent the project that we've done because you were an essential part of it. And so the biggest challenge, I think, is, and which is something that is really important, as architects, we are also educators by default. And so you have to educate like the people that you work with and just let them understand the ethos of the practice and how taking ownership is not just good for the business, but also good for them.
That's fantastic. Please, can we put our hands together for my panelists? They're absolutely fantastic. Honestly, just joining all the things that you said so far, it's interesting that with the right style of communication and communicating clearly about the goals of the project, what we're trying to achieve, about communicating, I guess, feedback about questions
was a blessing in disguise, but in terms of how we worked, right, it was a big challenge, even though we saw ways in which we could navigate it with technology. Yeah, but it's always a challenge.
All right. Thank you very much. Femi?
I'll say that for me, and it's been two different cases, right? So with Omi, we're working on a lot of speculative sort of like, ideas and trying to get those built, not houses, but like, real solutions and stuff. And so it was kind of difficult when one time I had to collaborate with someone who was like, who I'll say had their own kind of like practice, you know what I mean? And so obviously they were not like reporting to me, but what was important for me in that situation was to get fresh ideas that were just not myself, just like, that kind of thing. But I think it was an opportunity to grow from that, to understand, how to better communicate and set ways that we can collaborate. But in Studio Control, we're always collaborating with different partners. Tokitu has worked on projects with us. Tokitu is a studio in Spain. We've actually also collaborated with Alison Brooks on the London School of Economics. So we're always collaborating with these people. Yeah. I think the important thing is also, like I said at the beginning, kind of leave your ego at the door and just like, walk.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, leaving your ego at the door is advice for life, essentially. Thank you so much. Just taking a look to if we look at our crystal balls, how does technology affect how we work together collaboratively? And because you have mentioned about how you're not a fan of remote work, which I understand, to be honest, but how would you say technology has impacted how you work? It feels like you're going to say it's been a negative, but I'm actually curious, just beyond, people are rocking up at 2 hours. First off, how are you late to a remote call? Turn on your computer and smile. You know what? We'll talk about that later. But yeah, so share a bit about how technology has impacted your work.
Yeah, I think technology has been a very good help, and it's really helped how we worked together, even during the COVID period. For example, using BIM was also very helpful in ensuring that different team members were able to collaborate together on a project, right? And it just allowed that seamless workflow. And even in terms of like presentations, like typically we would use the entire Google Suite. So for concept presentations, for spreadsheets, you have like different team members collaborate together and work, which just makes the work done really quick and really fast. So technology has its own positive side, and it's been tremendously helpful to us.
Yeah, thank you. Akose, so I'm curious about if people with different working styles, say you're collaborating on a project, you and another architect, for instance, and this person is like, oh, I only work at night. And then you are like, what do you mean? Why are you working in the middle of the night, right? I sleep at night. So how do you balance that? When you have those types of situations, what do you do? I feel like I know what you're going to say is to communicate it, but I'm curious to know, what do you say? How do you say it? How do you deal with that? If there's compromise to be had, just give us what are practical steps to tackle that?
Okay, so it's weird you said that because I had an exact same scenario. Yes, and my experience is almost opposite of what May had. I like the idea of virtual work. Nice. I don't believe I should see you to beg you for your work. The job is expected on 30th of November. I didn't say 1st of December. If you bring it on 28th of November, fine. But you see, 30th, it must be 30th. So I had a colleague of mine that said he worked better at night. Okay, fine. Let's see. No, we gave it a try. Since you work better at night, and really and truly, you wake up by 8 a.m., you have your drawings in your mailbox, or you have the review in your mailbox, whatever it is, and then because he works at night, I gave him that leeway. So sometimes we'll have our catch-up meetings at maybe 2 p.m., 3 p.m., Again, I'm about output. He was delivering. It was what worked for him. By the way, he was in Nigeria, so it wasn't like it was a time difference thing. He just worked better at night. He worked. So long as the end goal was being met, I was fine with it. So I dealt with it.
Yeah. Femi, what do you have to say about this? I know that you and your, in the collective, you guys work on structural projects, right? So it's not really like, oh, do you have like hard deadlines? What does that look like? And then have you had to deal with people with different work styles?
So, in some ways, we do have hard deadlines. Most of the projects that we're working on now are living off grants. So, yes, we do have at some point have to report and show sort of like what we've been doing with all the money that's been given to us. Yeah, so we do have hard deadlines. I think it can be a difficult thing. I don't know that I will be able to cope with someone who wants to work at night just because, you know, I mean, I think it also depends on the nature of the project. So currently, the team is actually in a house in Onikon scanning the building. And so we can't do that in the night because we have to do it in daylight, right? So, but there's other back-end stuff that can be done in the night. So maybe that can work.
Develop team work, or who want to develop collaborative skills, who want to be better collaborators. What advice do you have for them? So start with you, Akose.
Okay, I'll go with, of course, I'll say communication. So be willing to listen. You don't know everything. No idea is a dead idea. There might be a seed in that idea that can spring into something else. So be willing to listen, be willing to learn, and never hold back, because that idea that you think is a bad idea might actually be the solution. Be open to listening to others and be open to speaking to others as well. And because sometimes when you speak, it's that feedback you get from them that might sound like constructive criticism, but there's something to learn from them. Yes, so that's what I would say to anybody that is interested or thinking about collaborating. It's very important. You can't do it on your own.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, May?
Yes, I think I'll go with his phrase that says, leave your ego at the door. I think it pretty much sums it, right? It's really not about one person. It's about the entire success of the project, right? You can't go with the personality of, oh, I'm the superstar and everybody else has to just work with me, right? Also be very open-minded and take constructive criticism, really. It just allows for people to grow and develop, really.
Okay, Fem, so she's stealing your catchphrase. Yeah.
I think, yeah, just, it's interesting, right? Because at the end of the day, we also have different kind of architects. And yes, I know I said my style is not stylistic, but there are people who are stylistic. And I think that in that sort of, if you're working in that formula, then you need to have people who kind of just believe in your vision. At the end of the day, that's the main thing, and just kind of indoctrinate them. Also, another thing about Omi Collective is that Omi Collective was born out of thinking about how can an alternative design practice run. So the people that I'm collaborating with are not necessarily on my payroll, right? I'm collaborating with people who have their own independent voices, doing things everywhere all over the world, but like, we understand that there's a problem and we can come together to solve. So I think there's also that aspect of like thinking about collaboration more than just, you know, people who are going to be below you, but like people who are like in the same kind of line, a sort of horizontal collaboration, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Something I got from that was just, as much as possible, ensure that people buy into the vision of what you're working on. It doesn't matter what type of design, it could be building, it could be products, whatever. Once they buy in, taking ownership, as you had mentioned earlier, just becomes so much easier. And then I love what you said about thinking through, like, the work you're doing is for you, right? First off, the work you're doing is for you before it's for anybody else. And so if you're excellent in that, you're going to be excellent in other areas of your life as well. I love communication, right? As much as possible, clear-cut communication, let there not be any ambiguity, and be kind in the communication as well, right? As much as possible, let it be clear my front, right? It's, here's what you've done wrong, here's what you can do better. And I love what May mentioned around how here you can ask leading questions to make people think through the things that they have said, to make them question the reasons, you know. I think there's something about ask 5 levels of why. So if you ask a why, by the time you get to the 5th level, you're like, I get it now. So it's just inculcating or adding those things to your life helps you just become a better team member and helps you become a better collaborator. So thank you so much. Please put your hands together for my amazing panelists. All right. Do we have any questions? No? Oh, we have one. Oh, I'm not sad. I'm excited. All right. As your hand, I will give him the mic. That's okay. All right. So please, your name and just tell us what your question is.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Banjo Ebenezer. Thank you so much for the insightful session. My question really, I've had this question for a while, but it's so great that we're talking about collaboration right now. So, you know the phrase that they say, always collaborate, don't compete. I don't know if it's this personal issue I have with that phrase, but I just wanted to hear your take or your opinion on it, because they say collaborate, 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 collaborate. But the little knowledge I have, competition has sort of made people to push, think, to innovate, be better and everything. Why is it that competition is a bad thing, or it should not? Because everybody is, don't compete, collaborate. Don't compete, collaborate. And you know, when you collaborate, when you work with, like when the size of a project starts having more people, it's drags, it's those kind of things. So I just need light in that area. That's the first question. And the second question I have is, you mentioned something about if you're not going to give the best to a particular project or something, you better just end off it. So personally, I just wanted to ask, how do you now balance, okay, they say that we should do things, make sure you do. It is in doing that you know, practicing knowledge and everything. But if you wait till you're ready to 100% commit to something before you get into it, doesn't that like leave in like sort of dilemma? Because you don't do things because you're not ready to 100% commit to it, and because you're not doing, you're not knowing. Because I know they say in 100% of it, or in 100 works, 70 will be trash, 30 will be good, 1 will be, or 2 will be excellent, that kind of thing. So once you don't do things, because you're not ready to commit and that kind of thing. So how do you do substitution? Just 2 questions. Thank you.
All right. Yes.
All right.
It was directed at him, right?
Was it at me?
Everybody.
Well,
all right.
I
can say yes, please.
All right. So you said something about not competing. I believe in healthy competition as much as I believe in collaboration. Now, I said healthy competition because there's a way you are competing that it becomes something else, right? When you compete, it's a case of somebody's doing something, you can learn from the person, right? Because you are not in an aggressive competition. I have come into this space, he's a better moderator than I am. I'm not dragging the microphone with him. Do you understand? But if we're both to moderate, I can just have him stand in front. I can learn a few things from him. I'm not necessarily competing with him, even though we are both moderators in a context, right? So there's need for healthy competition sometimes, so you can pick and learn from people. Your second question said something about not doing or doing. Yeah, I believe anything you want to do, start from where you are. That's why I believe you might never have the perfect time or right resources or everything to align perfectly. When you do that, you're losing time, you're waiting for perfection. I personally don't believe perfection is a thing that you can achieve, because you will work hard at it and you will do your best, but somebody out there might do something that will seem better than you. Will you now say you've not achieved what you wanted to do? It's good to aim for perfection. It's very good to aim for perfection, but you should not kill yourself because you did not achieve perfection. It will be a learning curve. You've reached here, this is your best for today. However, if you make your best for today, your best for next year, then you have not done anything. Does that make any sense? Does that answer your question? Thank you.
I'd like to answer the first question. I think you need to identify the scenarios where you want to collaborate and where you want to compete. So first of all, you want to collaborate. For example, you have a project you want to bid for and the X, Y, and Z key requirements, and you don't have all those key requirements. You know your end goal is to win that bid or to win that project. What do? You reach out to people, you collaborate with people who you feel have the requirements or have the skill sets. That is how you can get your end goal. And another scenario might be you have to go for a design competition and you feel you have the skill sets, you feel you have everything, you're creative enough, you have a strong winning bid, and you can do it on your own. So you have to just identify the different scenarios where you want to collaborate with people, or you feel like it's a competition that you can go in on your own and you can win. At the end of the day, your mindset should be the winning mindset. When you have that winning mindset, you will then begin to decipher whether you collaborate or whether you compete directly, individually on your own.
Okay, I think, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I think there's always going to be competition. Obviously, all of us here, we don't know each other. If we're going to do something, different people are doing their thing wherever, right? I think that a lot of times collaboration happens within your sphere, like your friends and all those kind of things, and that's like where you start from. I personally sort of believe that, and I think initially when I wanted to start Omi Collective, I had spoken to most of my people to say, let's come together and do this, because I think that you can only go so far that way. When you look at realistically, most of the architecture firms in Nigeria today, how many years have they existed? Do you know what I mean? And in terms of percentage, I think a lot of times we think about 5 firms and think, okay, we're doing well. It doesn't say much. So yes, collaboration is very important, but definitely there will always be competition. So I don't think you need to think about like the people in your sphere as like you're competing with them. If like, let's say, I don't know if you're an architect, but if 5 of you in your class want to, or like your friends want to start a firm together, that's great. You're only going to go so far. You're only going to go, farther, because different skill sets, etc. And I think about the second question, the most important thing that I think Akose was trying to say is that if I'm not going to give my best to this project, I'm just not going to do it. That's the main thing. It's not really about 70% commitment or whatever. Like, if you're an architect, that's what you are. You want to deliver a project, so you have to be committed to it, and you require that from anybody who's like working with you on the project. Full commitment and being ready to deliver, because at the end of the day, I think one other thing that's important to say is that a lot of times people fail to realize that, and that's why I said at the beginning, architecture is an innovation business, but also architecture is a business. A lot of times you just think about it as like you're just drawing, but it's a business, and so you're trying to make money. So like, it's when you give your 100 that you're going to make, the kind of money that you want to make.
All right, thank you so much. And just to wrap that up, and just a final word. I think from what everyone has said, it's like going to the gym, right? I mean, obviously you can see I work out. I'm both, yes. So it's like going to the gym, right? And the first time you go to the gym, maybe you're doing bench press, and you can press maybe like 50 kg. Your best is 50 kg. If you spend 2 months and you've gotten to 80 kg, your best at that point is 80 kg, right? If you bench press 50 kg at that point, that's not your best anymore, right? So just to answer the question, which is even at the space where you're starting out, at the place where you are beginning, there's the 100% you can give even in your not knowing that can help you become better, right? And there's 100% that you can give once you've become the best at it. Do you understand? So what he's saying is, no matter what level you are at, give 100% every time. If not, there's no point. Yeah? So, yes, you give 100%, sometimes you flop. You give 100%, sometimes it works. That's the 70, 80, something that you had said. That's possible, right? But even in all of that, just give it all, your all, essentially. Yeah? I hope that's clear. Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Akose, Ming, and of course, Femi. Can we have photos taken of us? Thank you. Oh, I'm going to be in one photo. I'm so excited. First time, guys. Of this panel session. My name is Toba. It has been the Ecobank Design and Build Expo 2024. It was an absolutely fantastic time. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye-bye.
Beautiful, and I see it's adding value to the creative industry. I mean, already I'm thinking of opportunities that can come out from here, things that can happen.
The art fair is here, look.
I'm just blown away.
Je suis ravie de visiter cette exposition. C'est toujours un plaisir de découvrir un pays sous la forme de l'art, donc on est très chanceux de pouvoir y participer.
It's lovely to learn the African Nigerian culture through this art.
%45 of GDP in Nigeria. But interestingly, as much as oil and gas contributes in terms of export revenue, 90%, it only contributes 10 to 12% of GDP. The rest of it comes primarily from SMEs, from the services sector, from manufacturing allied, and from agriculture. In total, SMEs contribute about 45% of GDP in Nigeria today. There are myriads of SMEs in Nigeria. We have the creative space, we have fashion, we have tech, we have agriculture, we have services, and many more. Given the values SMEs present in our country and continent, Ecobank Nigeria is positioned to be the leading partner bank to SMEs in Nigeria. We have developed various strategies, various products and services to provide solutions to these SMEs and elevate their pain points and ensure that their businesses become scalable. We're looking to grow local businesses to global standards. In trying to impact as many SMEs as possible, with the over 40 million SMEs in Nigeria, we've come to realize the most effective way of doing this is to create a webinar. And we've created this My SME Growth Series, which is a webinar that addresses everything from positioning, branding, enhancing business skills, scalability, dealing with exports, hedging your risk, insurance, cash flow empowerment by using solar power to ensure that our SMEs in Nigeria are able to scale and compete more effectively at the global level. To date, with the webinars we've run, we've able to impact more than 50,000 people and counting. So our SME desk is set up and equipped to provide the right kind of advice to our SMEs, point them in the right direction, and then help them realign their business so that it becomes scalable and are able to compete globally. So one of the other things we do is allow brands become more visible by giving them a platform where they can showcase their offerings to the larger public. So as a bank, we've done +234 to spotlight our young creatives and give them a global audience to play with. We've done Ajebe, Symphony of Colors, showing how our creative industry can put together ready-to-wear. Incidentally, if you go to some high streets in London today, you'll find Ajebe outfits in certain stores, which makes us very proud. We've more recently done Ojaoge, our pop-up fashion event, which just shows us that, look, Nigerian creatives, Nigerian fashion industry has a lot of depth and breadth, and we're looking to push that forward. Our SME growth story, our SME development, SME success story is the success of Ecobank, especially Ecobank Nigeria. Hi, my name is Amo.
Well, my name is Ade Laoye. I'm the founding partner of ECAD Architects. We've just completed one of our, I'd say, memorable projects, the National Theatre refurbishment and renovation. It's been quite good because it shows you what Nigerians can do. You know, most of our buildings that are dilapidated are normally demolished or not properly restored, but it shows you that a Nigerian team has been able to restore a national icon. So it shows you the importance of architecture. And I think architecture sometimes, you don't understand that architecture is beyond the buildings. Architecture is about the spaces around buildings as well, just not the building. And we call that urban architecture. And it affects our daily life. We're not aware of that. With bad planning, bad architectural planning, you'll have problems in your society. Pharaohs had the architects. Caesar had an architect. That's why everybody says, see Rome and die, see Paris and die. Even New York, even London. Architecture is vital to any city. Yeah, and as you know, architecture is about designing, and architecture is also about building. Without the architectural design, there's no building. You know, which one comes first, the chicken or the egg? So once you design, and you design well, and you design for what they call affordable housing, you design for villas, you design for cities, you design for villages. And once you've designed that, that now becomes the build. The build is linked to the design. Two of them work together. And it's important that architects, contractors, developers, specifiers, and suppliers all work together in harmony to create a wonderful city that will work for everybody.
Hi everyone, my name is Yinka Ogundaro, one of the partners in Adene Ecobank Consultants. We're a firm of architects and engineers. When you look at the Nigerian discourse in terms of what architecture has done and contributed to Nigeria, you will find out in the very beginning that architecture has helped us to even establish our identities. Urbanization happened, and then a lot of people moved into the cities, and you will find that we started growing our cities. Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt. We needed bigger buildings to take care of the massive urbanization that was happening. Architecture had a role to play in this. And even as our society developed, we needed more specialized buildings, schools, hospitals, cinemas, theaters, and all these kind of things that kind of showed that we were developing as a nation. A lot of the materials we use are imported. Now we have to come up with locally sourced materials that can be used at an industrial scale, such that we will be less dependent on importation. So architecture definitely has a role to play in our discourse and our national discourse as we go into the future. But one very important thing, even though we're part of a global village, architecture must help us to always remember who we are and give us that identity as Nigerians.
My name is Adeye Moshokumbi. I'm a co-creative director at Patrick Wahi Design Consultancy. I'm an architect working in Nigeria, and we are now at a crossroad, in my opinion, that our architecture needs to start reflecting the environment that it's in, the context, the heritage, the history, all the things that would give Nigerian architecture the credibility that it deserves. The journey so far is that we're now at a crossroads where I believe that it is important to start imbibing some of the things that I mentioned earlier. Architecture is now at a crossroads. Architecture is at a place where every architect has a responsibility to make a difference. A lot has changed since I moved back to Nigeria. I've seen the direction that we're going in, and I'm quite happy, but as we all know, there's still a long way to go. And Ecobank, I think, have taken it upon themselves to see how they can play their part in helping architects or people in the built industry, built environment rather, to be on this path where Nigeria can begin to sort of like showcase our heritage, our traditions, our culture, the context in the architecture that we're doing here.
Building Nigeria together.
Building Nigeria together.
Building Nigeria together.
Well, my name is Ade Laoye. I'm the founding partner of ECAD Architects. We've just completed one of our, memorable projects, the National Theatre refurbishment and renovation. It's been quite good because it shows you what Nigerians can do. You know, most of our buildings that are dilapidated are normally demolished or not properly.
Adi, Are, la fin pe ni Adire. Adire, a cultural tapestry worn across Nigeria. From the intricate designs of Alabere to the distinctive patterns of Oniko and Eleko, Adire captures the majestic rose of white and blue, now blossoming into vibrant colors of the rainbow. In Abeokuta and Osogbo, the heartlands of Adire, the passion is loud and proud. In the bustling streets of Lagos, and even in Kano, the ancient dye pits tell a story of tradition and innovation, showcasing the enduring legacy of this masterpiece. Adire is more than fabric. It is the past and the present moment, paying homage to the hands that wove the first threads, mixed the first pots of indigo, starch, and burned the first wax. Adire is more than fabric. It's a living history, a celebration of craftsmanship that transcends borders, uniting us in its vibrant embrace. Adire, more than fabric. At the very beginning, we said Adire is more than fabric. The Adire Lagos experience is more than an event. It's a symphony of colors. It's old friends meeting randomly. It's new friends being made. It's SMEs finding customers. It's a fashion event turned festival. The Adire Lagos experience has brought smiles to the faces of both vendors and customers. With vendors from around Africa to customers from different parts of the world. The rhythm of each day plays out beautifully, paying homage to the hands that wove the first threads, makes the first pot of indigo, starch, and burned the first wax. The beauty of the colors, the uniqueness of the patterns. Adire is truly more than fabric. It's been an amazing 4 days of promoting Adire, SMEs, our culture, and our heritage. 4 days of our vision brought into reality. It's Adire Lagos, brought to you by Ecobank Nigeria. Thank you all for coming, and see you next year.